Folks, Adam here. We're going to listen to a little Primus and beat a dead horse. The last video I did was in the car, and it was kind of asking you about what difficulty setting you play stuff on, but I kind of touched on my Resident Evil history a little bit, and I thought that I got to thinking about it, and I wanted to dig out all of my Resident Evil related games and put them into one video. And I know we just showed a couple on the GameCube and one on the 360, but I figured I'd recap them again in this and kind of give you a little history with me and some of these games. And some of them I have a lot of history with, and some of them I have very little. So I thought we'd also kind of bullshit about the movies for a minute, and you know, that kind of stuff. So anyway, this will probably be the last Resident Evil video for a moment. I think this is definitively what I've got. So we'll get started here. We've got our Resident Evil Biohazard mints, or what are they called? Outbreak mints. I think I got these at Vintage Stock, and I don't remember where. I had a whole bunch of these Biohazard specimen bags, I think probably from when my mother was going to the hospital quite a bit. But I bought these mints, so I thought it was kind of cute to put it in the Biohazard bag, but they're still sealed. I had never opened this thing, so I don't know what they actually taste like or anything. They look like peppermint is what it says on the back. Magnesium, peppermint flavors. So they're probably like Altoids or something, I'm guessing. But yeah, I love the little tin with the umbrella symbol on it and stuff, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I think on Facebook I posted a picture. I was driving to work one morning, and I pulled up at a stoplight, and the guy in front of me had like, it looked like a work truck, you know, with like a ladder thing on the top and stuff. But on the back tailgate, right in the middle of it, it had an umbrella symbol, just like that. And I was like, what in the fuck's the Umbrella Corporation doing in my neighborhood? You know, and I took a picture of it, and people were like, oh, that's pretty funny. But I don't know exactly the chronology. I mean, I know when some of these were released, but I don't know where they actually fall in the timeline of Resident Evil and all that. So I think I'll just kind of go from my beginning to end with it, and then we'll go from there. I'm turning around backwards because most of it's spread out over the bed here because I was trying to group stuff together. And so let's get going. Resident Evil came on my radar back when I went out to stay at my cousin Joe's for a couple nights. Back maybe when I was like 18 or 19 years old. And he had a PlayStation. He had a TurboGrafx 16 actually, but he had loaned the TurboGrafx to a friend of his in exchange for his PlayStation. And I know that Joe had 2 or 3 games for it at the time, and I think the kid he borrowed it from, his name was also Joe. But Resident Evil was the one that he showed me that really stuck with me, and I remember playing it, and it was pretty intense, and it didn't feel like a kid's game, you know. It felt like more adult content and mature, you know. So when I went home, I of course didn't have a PlayStation, and I was like, man, that game was really cool though. And I had a Sega CD at the time, but I really wasn't collecting at that time. I didn't really start collecting. I mean, really collecting till about 7 or 8 years ago, but collecting meaning really caring about the quality and shape my games were in, or you know, keeping a collection. So there were a lot of times where I would buy an upgrade or something, and I would just give something to somebody else that didn't have it. And then later on, I was like, damn, I wish I wouldn't have gave that away. So anyway, we're going to start at the beginning. So I was there thinking, damn, you know, and I had some money saved. And like I said, I went kind of nuts after I finally kind of was bringing in an income and stuff. And the game systems were fairly inexpensive at that point. I mean, you're talking a Genesis was around $100 or $125, and the Super Nintendo was around 100 and that same range, right around 150 or so. And I just bought both systems because they weren't very expensive, and I bought you know, games for both and everything. But then when it came time for the PlayStation, the sucker was like $300. And I was like, ah, damn, that's like a lot of loot, you know. And it didn't even come with a game. It didn't have a pack-in game or anything. And it only came with one controller. And I remember being like, oh, man, but that game was so cool, you know. So I ended up ponying up, and I went and I bought the system. And I'm pretty sure I bought Resident Evil at the same time I bought the system. And then shortly after that, I think I bought D and this game called Silverload, which is kind of a point and click kind of. It kind of reminds me of like a Shadowgate or something, but it was based in the Old West. And we'll do a PS1 collection with showing the long boxes and the regular ones at some point, but you're going to see some of these Resident Evil games again in that video. But anyway, I had bought it, and it was these were back early on enough, they were still releasing everything in the long box. And so I bought a long box version. Well, over time, I beat it and everything. And then what happened was the director's cut came out. Well, so anyway, we'll start with that because this is probably the oldest game I have that I paid retail for, and that is Resident Evil Director's Cut. And basically they just kind of moved some items around and things and kind of made the game a little bit of a different experience than the original. I don't remember the exact differences and stuff, but the cats are just going nuts. What's going on? Anyway, I bought this, and it says includes interactive demo for Resident Evil 2 and $5 off towards your Resident Evil purchase. And of course, the $5 coupon is on the back of the instruction book. So how many people actually cut that out to save $5? I mean, I didn't. But when I got this version, this Resident Evil Director's Cut, I gave away my long box. I gave it to my cousin, not Joe, but a different cousin. And I asked him about it later on, and he couldn't remember where it was at or what happened to it, and he didn't have it anymore. So I ended up going back to eBay, I believe it was eBay, and bought a long box version. So this is my long box Resident Evil, and it's actually in pretty good shape. It's got a little bit of a wear right here on the back art, and I think I had to glue the art back down to the plastic at one point because the glue had come loose. It's got the foam in it and the instruction book. And instruction book is black and white, but and evidently there was a strategy guide for it. That reminds me. There's only one Resident Evil I ever bought a strategy guide for, and that was Resident Evil 2. The game is the original black box disc version, and the teeth on the thing are all nice. They're not broken or really loose, meaning the game wasn't snapped in and out of this too many times. I don't usually take it out of here because I don't want the teeth getting worn out on the case because there's no way to replace it. So I'm just really careful with this. But this was my first experience with Resident Evil, and I loved the games, and I couldn't wait for Resident Evil 2, so of course I bought the director's cut, mainly because it was the director's cut, and it had the original version, the director's cut, but it also had this demo disc for Resident Evil 2, and that was a big selling point. So I bought the director's cut version, and that artwork's pretty awesome. So I paid full retail for this. I don't remember what I paid to buy the long box back, but I originally bought it at full retail price. And so those are my 2 Resident Evil games, and then I thought we'd put the GameCube version with these, since it's kind of a an update kind of graphically and voice-wise to the original, but it's pretty faithful to the original kind of game. So it was complete. I just showed this recently, I know. I don't know if the instruction book, this instruction book is actually in color, which is nice. There's the back and the front. I don't think I actually showed the instruction book, but it's in color. Try to see if there's any cool looking pictures. Mainly just that one of Chris on that one page. Pretty cool. But, yeah, so Resident Evil 1. And I couldn't wait for Resident Evil 2 to come out. I'm telling you, I was chomping at the bit. Because it was like, it's a whole freaking city, man. It's not just one house and the grounds to the house, but a whole damn city overrun with zombies, you know. So, in keeping with that, when Resident Evil 2 came out on the PlayStation, I ran out and I bought a full retail copy at full price. And, so here's my Resident Evil 2, full price. Win a part in the movie. We're going to talk about the movies in a minute, and I actually have one of them playing in the background. But this one picked up with different characters. It picked up with Claire and Leon. I believe it was Leon. Yeah, Claire and Leon. And, I love this game. I played through this multiple times, starting with one character and then starting with the other one. It didn't really make a difference which one you started with. And this actually has a hint line, like 900 number on the disc itself, in case you got stuck. I doubt that number's still in service. It might be Capcom hint line. I doubt it, though. I mean, this is from 1998, so you're talking 20 years ago. So I doubt that phone number is still any good. But, yeah, Resident Evil 2. And then I actually have a couple other versions of Resident Evil 2. When I went back into my collecting, when I decided, yeah, I'm going to start being a game connoisseur, a collector, if you will, and I got a Dreamcast at the pawn shop, and it was like $40, and I picked up some games. And when I really started diving into that library, I saw that they had Resident Evil games. You know, they had released Resident Evil games on the Dreamcast as well, and Resident Evil 2 was one of those. So I picked it up again on the Dreamcast, Resident Evil 2. And it's kind of the same deal. The discs look almost the same, except they have the Dreamcast logo on it, but it has that same hint line, phone number on the discs, and that artwork, that's like a liquor, I think, is artwork, but it's pretty cool. The instructions are black and white, so I'm not going to take them out of there. But the case looks nice in this. I don't remember what I paid, and I never have played through this. It's kind of like I was comparing apples to oranges, or apples to apples, I guess, when I got my Dreamcast, and I compared some of the games that I had for the PS2 on the Dreamcast and looked at the sprites and the, you know, resolutions and if they looked cleaner or not. And a lot of times the Soul Reaver looked, it's not Soul Reaver. Soul Reaver was one that I actually went into Game Exchange and was talking to them, and I said, because they had a copy of Soul Reaver Legacy of Kain for the Dreamcast, and I said, well, I have it for the PS2, but I was wondering, you know, how much better it looked graphically. And the dude actually threw it in on their demos, on their demo machines there. They had a PS2 and a Dreamcast, and they threw them on side by side, and we kind of looked at them, and you could see a little bit of a difference. In the Dreamcast, when the graphics looked a little smoother, some of that, you know, polygon shapes and stuff were a little more smooth and stuff, and it had a better look, I thought, on the Dreamcast. So any game that I had on the PS2 that I really, or PS1, that I really loved, I went ahead and bought for the PS2, or PS2, Dreamcast. I'm getting confused now. And I bought Resident Evil 2 for that as well. And then I actually have a greatest hits version of Resident Evil 2. And I think this came out of my grandparents' storage units when I was helping clean out the storage units about 7 or 8 years ago. It was shortly, well, it was probably about 6 years ago. And yeah, so Resident Evil 2, the discs are just black, and then the artwork is the same, except it has the greatest hits, green band on the side and stuff. But Resident Evil 2 is the only one that I ever bought a strategy guide for, and I was gonna see if I couldn't grab it really quick, but it's looking like it's gonna be a pain in the ass to find it. Where are you at, strategy guide? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Resident Evil 2 strategy guide. The perfect guide, it says. This has, what is this? Fatal Frame case art. I think I did some repro case art for some of those Fatal Frame games. Now, that's the original, because of the way it's folded and stuff. That's original art. This is something I think I reproed, because it's never been folded or anything. This one's actually got the folds on it and stuff, and I can tell it was original by the way it looks. I don't know what Fatal Frame has to do with anything. But, yeah, instruction or strategy guide for Resident Evil 2. There's so many things in that game that I didn't do that filled the game out and made it more of an experience. I think even at one point you could play as like a freaking, like, cube or something with a knife. I don't remember. Oh, the tofu cube. That's what it is. You were this, the fourth survivor. I mean, I don't know what that is. You know, it tells you how to get infinite weapons, shooting the camera. I mean, things like that. Things that you wouldn't know otherwise, maybe, unless you were really just hounding, you know, playing the game over and over and over again. Evidently, this strategy guide was only $9.99, so we picked it up. Please don't claw that if you thought about it. Alright, so Resident Evil 2, we also have, and this looks like it came maybe from the storage unit, or I got it at a thrift store. We have a loose cart N64 Resident Evil 2. And the label on this is really dingy and kind of discolored on part of it. And I immediately, when I saw how dingy this was, I'm like, oh, I got to get a new copy of that. And then I got to thinking, why are you buying another copy of it? I mean, you already have one, but you have 3 more here. And it's just like, you'll never play through this on the Nintendo 64 because you really don't like the Nintendo 64 that much. But, you know, seeing a copy in this poorest shape, it just gets the collector in me going, I wish I had a better copy. So I thought, even though it wouldn't be real, I thought about buying a repro label just to replace the front label so it's not so dingy looking. I mean, I don't care if it got a repro label and it's not an original label on it, because like I said, I just had the loose cart. I did look into maybe buying a box copy, and then that's when it struck me. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Why are you buying it again when you already have... This cart works. I mean, I tried it in a Nintendo 64, and it does work. So there's no reason to really buy it again, except cosmetically. It looks, you know, fucked up. So, I mean, it's just like, well, oh well, you know, just have to deal. So I've got 4 versions of Resident Evil 2 here, and I actually looked into getting Resident Evil 2 and 3, getting Nemesis and Resident Evil 2 on the GameCube back in the day, and I almost bought them, and I ended up getting the 0 and the Resident Evil 4 and the remake. And I almost bought the other 2, but they were always just a little bit too pricey. And I'm like, I already have these games. And if I could have found them a little bit cheaper, like around $10-$12, I might have picked them up. But I think they wanted like 20 plus for them. And it just, I was like, you're buying the same game again, dude, for another system. Quit it. Stop it. You know? So, anyway, Resident Evil 2 and then Resident Evil. I don't know where to put this one in the pantheon of games, but I remember seeing what the hell am I thinking? An ad, you know, like a review or something in a magazine for this one, and I'm not big into first-person shooters, so it really didn't hit me at first, especially this version, that I had to have it. I had to run out and buy it. But I was at I know I bought it at Vintage Stock. I was at Vintage Stock. They had it in their coveted case, and I don't remember what I paid for it. It must have been something I was willing to pay, though, or I wouldn't own it. But that's Resident Evil Survivor on the PS1 PlayStation. And it's more of a first-person perspective game. And I don't know who you're actually playing, what the guy's name is. A lone survivor. That's all it says. It doesn't say who it is or what his name is or anything. And then, I don't know if I showed the inside. That artwork's pretty sweet. But yeah, I did a review on, or like a gameplay on this at one point, and it's still posted on my channel. But it's like a 10-minute kind of gameplay or something on it, and I'm glad to have it. Believe me, I mean, I'm not like, oh man, I should have never bought that piece of dog shit. But yeah, it didn't hold my interest enough to finish it or anything. And here's where we start hitting the point where it's kind of like hitting a brick wall. This is the last one that I actually finished. And this is what I'm saying when I say I didn't really care about the quality. I think I bought this at Blockbuster Video, and it was used. And I picked up Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, because I think at that point I wasn't playing video games quite as much. I had kind of shelved it for the... I started playing the electric guitar. I thought I was going to be a rock star. And so I wasn't playing video games as much. So I didn't want to pay a lot for them because I was putting that money toward saving up to buy guitar equipment, which isn't cheap. And so I got this... after I think my uncle told me it was pretty good and had played through it. And so I saw it at Blockbuster Video, and I went ahead and picked it up. And the reason why I say that is because the front is just the very front cover of the instruction book. It's not the actual whole instruction book or even the whole folded over thing. And the disc itself looks like somebody, I'm pretty sure I didn't do this, but that somebody tried to peel the Blockbuster Video kind of sticker off that was over the top of it, because part of it's still on here on this edge, but part of it's not, and you can see where it kind of ripped up the graphic on the front of the disc. But Resident Evil Nemesis was the last one Resident Evil game that I actually played through. So, I don't know how long this video is been going. I think we're about 20 minutes in. I'm going to get through this Resident Evil 3 thing. So, then I picked it up again for the Dreamcast. This is a nice copy. I mean, the quality on this one is nice and looks good. Really crisp and clean. Even the case looks fairly new. It's basically this, got the same graphic on the disc, except it says Dreamcast. Same artwork on the underside. And this was a pretty awesome game. You play as Jill Valentine. I believe you only play as Jill on this one, from what I remember. But I don't know for sure. But Dreamcast, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So I'm going to stop for a second, stop the camera, and then we're going to restart and pick up. This is going to take a while. Well, maybe not. Maybe we'll kind of power through the movie stuff. I do want to mention the movies a little bit, but we won't dwell on them too much. But okay, so let's stop this sucker in its tracks. Alrighty, due to battery life and the fact that this probably isn't too fucking exciting, we're gonna speed it along a little bit. I was right at the end too. I mean, it was like 27 and 58 seconds or something. So if I wouldn't have stopped it right then, it would have shut off on me. So, okay. So the next system we're moving on to is the PlayStation 2. And I think I told you this. It was one of the reasons why this is actually the first game I bought for my PlayStation 2. And that would be Resident Evil Code Veronica. And I think you're back playing Claire and her brother Chris in this one. And it actually came with a bonus demo disc for the game Devil May Cry. The original Devil May Cry. This is back before it was even released. And the instruction book looks crispy. I never really read through it or took it out. Or if I did, I babied it. I really didn't mess with it too much. And then we have the Code Veronica disc. The discs look nice. This is when I started kind of actually collecting to a degree. I was trying to keep the stuff in good shape. And I was probably 28 or 29 at this point. I'd kind of not given up on the rock star thing, but at the same time, I think I had bought a guitar and I had my equipment, so I was back to needing something to buy, so I was back to the video games. But this is the original Devil May Cry demo CD. I don't remember what it actually entails on it, but yeah, so the artwork on it's pretty cool. And I bought this game before I had the system. I think we talked about that. I bought it in anticipation of having the money to buy the system. And when I did get the money, I ran out and bought it, started playing it. But now, I remember watching the intro and her running through the building and they're like shooting at her. And I think they picked that up in one of the Resident Evil movies. They kind of do a homage to that. I don't remember which movie it is. But Anyway, we're not talking about the movies just yet. And then I picked it up for the Dreamcast as well. I picked up Code Veronica. On this one, it's called Code Veronica X. I don't know why they decided on the PlayStation to call it Code Veronica X, but they did. So it's a 2-disc game on the Dreamcast, but it's only 1 disc on the PlayStation 2. And the discs look pretty nice. My problem with this game, and the reason why I have problems with it now, is the tank controls. Meaning up is always forward, and then left and right kind of turns your guy like that, and up's always forward, and back just kind of makes them backpedal or walk backwards slowly. And those controls just kind of drive me nuts nowadays. There's a stupid vintage stock sticker on the back that I'm trying to peel off and wasting time trying to do so. So, the final PlayStation 2 piece of the puzzle we have here, well, not final. The next game we have here is another foray into the, this is kind of a mix. And that would be the game, and I got this at Game Exchange, I'm pretty sure. And it's a PlayStation 2 game, Resident Evil Dead Aim. And it says you can use a gun, the GunCon 2 gun with this game. I never did. I think I own some of those guns. It might be fun with a game gun. I remember playing it a little bit. I remember playing it on my friend's huge widescreen projection television. So when you pulled into that first-person shooter mode, it was like right in your face because it was so big on the screen. I never beat this. I got to like a boss battle at one point, and and I got stuck. I don't know if this is Ada Wong. I'm trying to see. Bruce McGavin. I don't know who the hell he is. It doesn't say it's Ada Wong, but there's a lady on here that looks like Ada Wong to me, so I'm going to assume it is her. This one's good. I do like this. I don't know if I ever did a gameplay on it, but it's a little off the beaten path of the Resident Evil games, and I think I paid a penny for it. No, I mean, it wasn't like super crazy, but I think I paid a little bit more than I normally would have because I hadn't seen it anywhere. And this is back before I was really buying online. So I saw it at Game Exchange. I was like, oh, I got to get it. So we bought Resident Evil Dead Aim. And then the final piece of the PlayStation 2 puzzle here is Resident Evil 4. This, like I said, is a awesome game. Originally came out for the GameCube, and we showed it for the GameCube not too long ago. I don't know if they made any changes to the actual game when they ported it over to the PS2. I just don't know. If you all know, let me know, because I don't remember. But later on, when I started collecting again and bought a GameCube, Resident Evil 4 was high on the list to pick up the real original version. And I remember getting my head chainsawed off a couple times. Or the very first time it happened, I was like, whoa. But, yeah, this is Leon, and I think you're watching after the President's Daughter, and it looks like Ada Wong's in this one as well. But I don't recall. I only made it about halfway through. I remember doing something. There's like a lake, and you were in a little boat. I remember doing that, and then I remember getting to the President's Daughter and having her following you around, and getting to a certain point where I got stuck. And it was somewhere around there, but I remember getting her. I thought I fought a dude in like a barn or something. I don't really remember. But yeah, this game is pretty awesome. I should probably really go back and really try it, but who's got the time? I wish I could split myself into about 10 people and retain all of the experience from all of it so I could play all this shit at the same time, but it ain't happening. So it's more about just collecting and staring at the the discs. And then like I also showed this one, this is my final GameCuber, the Resident Evil 0. And Claire is in this one, and I don't know who the guy is. This is exciting, isn't it? Watch me trying to read the back of the frickin' cover. I don't know who this guy is, but that's Claire. So yeah, Resident Evil 0. So far, I mean, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's 16 different Resident Evil medias. I mean, it's not 16 individual games, but it's different media, but some of them are 2 or 3 of the same. So 16 different pieces of Resident Evil video game history. And then the 360 was the most current, and it is the next one in line here. So, yeah, my copy of Resident Evil 5. We've got Chris. And Sheva Olamar. I don't know who she is, because I really didn't play this game very long. I should probably go back and play this. Yeah, okay. So I don't really have an opinion on it because I only played like a little bit, like the very beginning. I remember being in a room and like zombies pouring in window and the door and a couple windows and trying to hide behind a table and some stuff. And other than that, I don't really have much of a memory of it. And then Resident Evil, I haven't shown this one. I might have showed it when I got it at one point. But this is the Resident Evil 6 for the PS3 that I picked up, the anthology. And like I said, it's the downloadable code was in here, but it was already redeemed, which, you know, like I said, sometimes they haven't been redeemed. So, you know, you can, like, there are the codes there. I tried all the different codes, and they were all redeemed, which is fine. But, you know, I mean, somebody bought it. They deserve to download it. But, you know, it would have been nice to score those downloadables just for like a pawn shop copy, you know, or it might have been a vintage stock like sale or something that I picked it up. So Resident Evil 6, and I haven't played that one at all. I haven't stuck it in. I don't really even know what it's about or who you play. And it doesn't really say on the back anything about the game. So I don't know. I honestly don't know, because it doesn't tell you anything about the game on the back. So I really don't even know anything about it. And then this is a pawn shop pickup. This is my final game. For the Wii, we picked up this Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, which looks a lot like a House of the Dead overkill or something, like a shooter game. And it looks like you can play this with the Wii Zapper thing for a more intense experience. So it looks like more of just like a shoot 'em up kind of a gun game, which is cool. I know they released quite a few Resident Evil titles on the Wii. I mean, I think I remember a couple. I know there was the Outbreak games as well. I know there were like 2 of them anyway. I heard from somebody they weren't really that good, and I never tried it because I was like, yeah, if it's not good, I don't really want to mess with it. You know, so I don't know. And I never went back and bought them again or bought them for the first time because they were just kind of pricey. And I was like, well, they weren't even that pricey. I just like, I don't know. I don't know if they suck ass. I don't want to sit there and have to pay for them and then have them suck. So, you know, what are you going to do? So that's my overall arcing Resident Evil collection of games. And like I said, I probably will pick up Biohazard for the PS4 sometime. I did price it. It's still going for around $30. You might be able to get a used copy for 20 or so. And I've just been really enjoying the couple of titles I have picked up for the PS3. I'm not going to show them in this video, but I talked up one of them anyway, and that's what I've been playing. I finally beat XCOM Enemy Within. I think maybe I was kind of forestalling the ending and just running missions, and so because when I went through the final level with my really beefed up characters, I really didn't struggle that much, and none of my guys even died in the last fight. So I mean, I made it through and I saw the end, and so we started in on XCOM 2. And XCOM 2 is pretty awesome, but there are a lot of differences, and it's really frustrating. And I'm going to talk about it at length maybe sometime soon. So, to finish up this, I thought we would go over some of the movies. I know there is a 6th movie that came out last year, I think, called The Final Chapter, which is like the 6th movie. I do not have that one yet, and I was really kind of bummed because all of the other ones I have on DVD, and it looks like they're only releasing The Final Chapter on Blu-ray and DVD, like maybe combo or something. And so it doesn't come as a standalone DVD. And so I'm like, yeah, does that mean I have to buy them all on Blu-ray to have them all in the same media? Or do I care? You know, I mean, because when Resident Evil 1 came out, I ran to the theater to see it. And I think I drugged my roommate, and he had watched me play through Resident Evil 2, and he just would sit and watch me play it. He tried playing it and died a couple times, and he just would prefer to sit there and watch me play, which is fine. So when it came out, we went and saw it, and I thought it was really cool. It did deviate slightly from the movie or from the games and stuff with Alice and stuff, but it had enough earmarks of the Resident Evil game to be enjoyable. That hive thing and stuff didn't really exist in the original Resident Evil game and stuff, and I thought they really expanded. I thought they really did a good job with kind of creating its own thing, but keeping it feeling like Resident Evil, and especially that end of the first movie when she wakes up in the room and pulls those electrodes and stuff off, and he ends up getting out of that room and going out into the street and just seeing it in ruins and holding the shotgun, and they do that big crane shot pullback. It was just like, wow, that's fucking awesome. And I couldn't wait for the second movie to come out. And so when the second movie came out, I ran to the theater, and it may be my favorite one out of all the movies that I've seen. It just felt like they hit it all with that. They did enough homages to the games, basically Nemesis and Resident Evil 2, but they used the Alice character, but Jill was in it, and they really hit a lot of the marks, I thought, with that movie, as far as feeling like Resident Evil, and they had the big kind of fight at the end between Mila and or Alice and Nemesis and all that, and I liked it. It didn't keep with the original kind of endings to the games and stuff, but you know, it was its own thing, and I really dug it. So I bought the original Resident Evil, as soon as it came out, I remember it had Mila Jovovich and Michelle Rodriguez standing on the cover, and it was red, and she was wearing the red dress and stuff. And I don't know what happened to that copy. I think I might have gave it to my roommate or gave it to somebody else, because this is the only one I actually have still that I could find, and that is my deluxe edition Resident Evil DVD. And it came with a free ticket to the movie Resident Evil Apocalypse that I never redeemed. And I think I bought this because it had a couple of extra little special features. Alternate ending, Paul Anderson's intro to the movie, cast and filmmaker commentary, which I think is hilarious because Mila and Michelle Rodriguez are doing the commentary, and she keeps calling her Jovovich. And she finally, at one point, they're joking back and forth, but she goes, Jovovich, how hard is that to say? And they're kind of giving each other shit, but I thought it's pretty funny commentary track. And the game's pretty cool. I was kind of sad that Michelle Rodriguez's character died in that movie, and it was nice to see them kind of revisit it in later movies. So then when Apocalypse came out, I ran out and I bought it, and it came with one of these nice plastic sleeve things that goes over the actual DVD, and it's the special edition Resident Evil Apocalypse. It's got the movie on one disc and then the special features on another. Resident Evil 4 ad in here, and it says get a free t-shirt when you buy the game while supplies last. Did anybody get that free t-shirt? Resident Evil 4? I don't know. I didn't. But I took pretty good care of this. The plastic's pretty clean. It's not too scratched up or anything. And like I said, this may be my favorite one of them out of the 3, or out of the 6. I haven't seen the 6th one, so I don't know how good or bad it is. And then when I didn't see the 3rd one for a while, the 3rd movie. After I saw the 2nd one, I kind of was like, the 3rd one didn't look as good to me, and I just was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. So I really didn't even see the 3rd one till I think about the time the 5th one came out. And I picked it up cheap at Blockbuster Video, and so this is a Blockbuster case, but it's the widescreen special edition limited, or Mila Jovovich, a Resident Evil Extinction. Now this movie's not that bad, and they introduced Claire in this, and I don't know, there's just something about the whole driving around the desert thing, and Alice seemed way OP in this movie. Like, she just was way too powerful, and they kind of get rid of her powers at some point. I think it's in the 4th movie. I don't know. It may be the 4th movie. I think it's the end of the 4th movie. She loses her powers. Or, I don't remember. But she has all these weird powers. And she's super strong and all this stuff. And she ends up losing her powers at one point. But, then I picked up a good copy, and this looks pretty clean. I might have got it at a pawn shop or something. But this one says exclusive 2-disc limited edition of Resident Evil. And I was looking on the backs, and I don't really notice that it's got any more stuff on it under special features than this one says it has on the back. So this one's like a 1-disc widescreen special edition. This one's a 2-disc limited edition. And also you get your digital code, which I don't think I ever tried to redeem. I never really tried to redeem digital media codes. Okay, we're still going, but we're getting close to the end here. But when I saw 3, I decided to go ahead and pick up 4 and 5. I think both movies were out by that point on DVD. So I went ahead and bought both of them on DVD at the same time. And I had the same feeling with Resident Evil 4. Just wasn't... It was okay. I think at the beginning, maybe at the beginning of 4, she loses her powers. And I think she gets them back, or some of it back in one of them. Like Wesker, like, injects her with something, and then he, like, gives her back her powers or something. Like, I don't remember whether they injected her with something to take them away, but they injected her with something to bring them back. I don't remember. But this one's got a cast commentary and stuff on it as well. This one's got a commentary on it. I think pretty much all of them have commentary tracks, which is pretty nice. And it was really awesome that Mila decided to do the whole run. You know, it would have been kind of sucky if they would have subbed out, you know, somebody else for Alice at one point. And I think Final Chapter is supposed to be the final movie. And then, so after watching 4, they kind of introduced I think his name was Luther. This guy named Luther, and they introduced Chris into the movie and stuff. And Claire, I think they I think at the end of 3, Claire leaves with a group on a plane, and she ends up finally making it to where they were supposed to be, and finding that it was just, you know, another wash. But she finds Claire there. From what I remember, I need to watch all of them again, or at least the 3rd and 4th one, because I haven't really, like I said, they're not my favorites, so I never really watched 4 that much. I think I watched it once, maybe twice. Same thing with Resident Evil Extinction, but the first 2 I've seen, you know, half a dozen times at least. So when it came to the 5th movie, I didn't have high hopes, but I was pleasantly surprised. The 5th movie kicked ass. You're in like this underground base. I think it's like a Russian or it's a facility, but it's an umbrella facility. But it's like got all these like it's broken into areas, and she has to like make her way through like a city, and then through the suburbs, and then through some different things. And there's this part where she's got this like lock with a chain, and she's swinging it around and hitting all these fucking people with it, or zombies with it and stuff. And that's when they introduced the thing, maybe they did in the 4th movie, the things where the big deal would come out of their mouth and stuff. It wasn't just like the normal zombies anymore. It was more like the ones from Resident Evil 4. But what kicked my ass about this movie is they brought back Michelle Rodriguez's character and Oded Fehr's character. All these people that they had killed off, they brought them back as like clones, basically, of them in these VR environments, or not VR, but, you know, environments. And so there was a legitimate reason why she was back in the movie, and it made sense, and it was kind of cool. And they also, Ada Wong's in this movie, Barry, and Leon, and the Luther guy makes an appearance again. So this movie had, like, it hit all the characters. I mean, it hit, like, Barry, Leon, Ada Wong, Claire. I don't know if Claire and Chris were in this one. But it kind of reverted back, and I really dug that. Jill's only in the 2nd movie, from what I remember. But the end of this one, 5, ends with them standing on top of the White House, I think, and there's like this huge swarm of zombies, and she's standing there with Ada Wong and Wesker and Alice, and I can't remember Michelle Rodriguez's character's name. I think she's there, and they're watching this huge swarm, and they do just a big pullback shot. It looks like Lord of the Rings fucking battalion of zombies headed toward the White House, and they're like, you know, gunning them down and shit. And it's just, I really like the end of 5, so I don't know. I'm like 6, the final chapter. Are they gonna be able to pull it off for me the same way they did with 5? So I don't know. I guess I'll see. I'm gonna pick it up here real soon, and I might just, you know, stream it or something and check it out. And then my final deal is this, and this is for one of them. It's for the 4th movie. I found this at the pawn shop. It's a steelbook version of Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil Afterlife, and the steelbook looks really sweet. And it was like $5 or maybe even cheaper than that for the Blu-ray steelbook. So I was like, I can't pass it up. I was hoping that they had more of them there. You know, I kind of looked through the rest of their Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff, hoping that they had some of the other, maybe not steelbook, but had some of the other Resident Evil movies on Blu-ray, and they didn't. So that's the only one I have on Blu-ray. So that's kind of it. That's Resident Evil in a nutshell for me. I really enjoy it. I'm thankful that it was created. Capcom, thank you. But like I said, as far as like, I continue to buy from the series because I just have so much nostalgia for the original 3 games that I continue to buy. And it's not that they're bad. I just never find the time, or they seem a little too difficult, or this or that. And it's just, I just move on to something else. And I always am like, I'm so glad I have these, because one of these days, you know, I'm going to play them. So, yeah, right. We'll see. So, anyway, I'm going to sign off. Resident Evil heads, that's this, and this is that.
I'm making nipsies for the final that you came here for. The one to rid it if you manage is the one I have on. I need a minute. Resident Evil.